I got my first spa facial ever yesterday, ever. And I have to say, I noticed the difference in my skin. I thought it was kind of bullshit, to be honest. Like, I didn't know if it was a real noticeable thing, but I looked crazy yesterday. My skin looked crazy, irritated because they pop your pimples and they get rid of your blackheads. It actually was kind of painful. I thought it would be relaxing. I did not enjoy it. But the lady, Marlene told me tomorrow you'll notice, you'll glow, you'll look totally different. I have to say, Marlene pulled it off. Marlene pulled it off. For the sake of this video, I am wearing, in honor of this video topic, I am wearing Republican blue. Just bear with me. This video, where do I even start? Where do I even start? I guess I should start by posing a question to my audience. And that question is, when your values, your beliefs, your worldview, when they don't coincide with somebody else's, at what point do you decide, I can overlook all of that because I want to stay connected to this person? And at what point do you decide it's a hard pass, whether we're talking about friendship, whether we're talking about dating, sex? So let me just start with that question. A couple months ago, I met this guy here in Miami, and we've since become hookup buddies slash friends with benefits. By the way, I'm bizarrely proud of myself for having a hookup buddy because I've only ever had one back in the day when I lived in New York City. It's one of those things that in my mind I always crave. Like, I always crave a connection with somebody where I can have intimacy without worrying, right? Worrying about sexual health, physical safety, like who is this person? Like, there's none of that anxiety because you're connected to them, you know them, which obviously I'm sure some of you are watching thinking, well, why don't you just date? Dating for me is even harder to have success with. Okay. So, like, baby steps. Okay. Listen, I cast the net all the time. If I can get a hookup buddy, that's a good start because everybody I encounter seems to be non-committal on these streets. So I have this new hookup buddy. He's very nice, very kind. Not even nice, he's kind. I can tell just when I interact with him, he's a kind person. He's thoughtful, he's inquisitive, he's reliable, he's intelligent. All these great qualities. And so, in fact, I enjoy his company so much that a few times into hanging out, I asked him the question of, how do you feel about dating? And he made it very clear, and he had made it clear before we ever met. So I respect the honesty. He said, hey, I'm open to it. We can explore, but I just moved to Miami. I'm not really looking for something serious at the moment, yada, yada, yada. Again, appreciate the honesty, but I'm not going to give somebody the best of me either if they don't want to commit. So for now, it's fine. I enjoy his company. It's nice to have, again, a friend that I can rely on and share intimacy with. But there's always a but. A few weeks ago, I went over to his place and he offered me a drink. There were a couple bottles of wine, and on one of them I recognized Hebrew. And I said, oh, is that Israeli wine? He's Jewish, by the way. And he said, yes, it is. And I flippantly said, or asked rather, you're not a Zionist by any chance, are you? And I said it, flippantly, I think because that's how, I'm jocular, and I'm playful and all those things. But I think subconsciously, with everything happening in the world right now, it's one of those things that you learn a lot about a person, in my opinion, based on their political beliefs and their reactions to what's happening in the world today, right? So I feel like maybe subconsciously that's why I said it, but I did blurt this out. And he goes, why, yes, I am a Zionist. The way I immediately changed the subject, moving along, but I think it stayed with both of us because it was just this jarring moment of disconnect. And so the other day, I was rambling to him about this thing I read about Epstein potentially still being alive and that he fled to Israel. That's the latest conspiracy theory with Epstein, by the way. And as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, fuck. I just brought up Israel again in some context that is not positive. Of course, he brought up the conversation from a few weeks ago and he said, hey, we had that awkward exchange. I feel like we should talk about it. And I said, yeah, you're right, we should. And so we got into it politely, respectfully on both sides. But I started kind of digging to get at what his belief system is, and essentially, he was like, yeah, I'm a he didn't say I'm a hardcore Zionist, but he was like, I absolutely believe in the sovereignty of the state of Israel, and that right now they're being misrepresented, and that they're doing everything that they can for self-preservation and all this stuff. Now, I don't want this video, I mean, I guess I've already sunk myself into the topic. I don't even want it to get political. It's not about what my political beliefs are versus yours watching. But these are really tense uh, subjects, or subjects that elicit tense responses, where, just like I said at the start of this video, you realize that your worldview is completely different from another person's. Like, I could not believe I was sitting next to a guy on the beach who I've been intimate with, finding out that he basically is denying the existence of a genocide currently, what I would call a genocide. And he was kind of arguing with me about semantics, about what the word genocide means, and this detail and that detail. And I'm like, you do realize you're now defending, forget what it's called, you're defending, no matter how you view it, violence against a group of people. In any war, to defend someone's propensity towards violence is bizarre to me. Listening to somebody say these things, and I said this to him, it's like listening to somebody who's in the MAGA bubble, the Trump loving crowd, where I literally can't understand how they rationalize what they believe in. And so after bringing up that analogy to MAGA, to the MAGA crowd, he's just staring at me silent. And I'm like, oh shit, you're not MAGA, are you? And he goes, define MAGA. So at this point, I'm clearly sinking myself deeper into, this grave that I've concocted for myself. In so many words, I discovered that my hookup buddy is very conservative politically and has, again, worldviews that are extremely different from mine, to the point where there's a disconnect, a cognitive dissonance between our views. So I think we were both sitting there thinking, like, what happens next? Like, this is kind of awkward, but it's nice to be able to just have a dialogue with somebody who doesn't agree with me and have a healthy conversation about it. But on the inside, I'm also getting annoyed with him that I associate that kind of belief system with a lack of empathy towards other groups of people, and a very sort of self-serving mindset of, I only care about the protection of people like me, or people in my own community, right? But then I thought, I wouldn't want somebody to judge me for my political views or like lack of religious beliefs. I thought, does this bug me enough that I can't be intimate with this guy? And I literally, as I'm making this video, am struggling with this topic of, like, for friendship, not a problem for me. I'm a loyal friend, and I have other friends who have beliefs that I just don't agree with, but I'm not going to abandon a friendship over somebody's political views. That's my stance. I understand that some people take it much more seriously, where they feel like they don't have time to be friends with people who have, again, a total cognitive dissonance when it comes to worldview stuff, what's going on in the world, and so on. But intimacy to me is a different beast, because there's nothing more vulnerable than having sex with another man. At the same time, I recently made a video a couple weeks ago about cults, because I've been watching a lot of cult documentaries, which actually come in, ironically, very handy related to this subject, in my opinion. I think all of us are either adjacent or sort of dormant members of modern day cults that we might not even realize have cult-like elements, whether it's in our workplace, whether it's our religion, whether it's our community in some kind of way. And so again, there's a part of me too that's like, well, maybe he just hasn't been exposed to someone like me who has very different views, but is open enough to talk about these things. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to keep learning from each other, which I know sounds very kumbaya corny, but truthfully, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, maybe this is good as like a personal challenge, not just for him, but for me. But then I have other moments where I'm like, can I really sleep with somebody who likely voted for Trump? Like, where do I draw the line here? Okay, come on. Ugh, I'm drained from even talking about this. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this. And have you ever been in a similar situation where maybe it's your ex, maybe you were seeing somebody, maybe you had a best friend, a family member whose belief system was so diametrically opposed to yours that it created challenges in terms of staying connected to that person? Or do you have the mindset of life is short, enjoy the company of people who you like being around, forget the minutia, the details? Let me know in the comments your thoughts. I'm so curious to hear what you have to say. I have a feeling there will be some heated comments. This is what my channel is about. It's about having at times uncomfortable conversations, and I am genuinely curious what other people think about this. I can't be the only person who's gone through this. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon.